Hey everyone, I'm David. In today's tutorial, I'll walk you through how to draw clear, professional construction details. We'll focus on two typical but critical details, a retaining wall and a roof construction detail. You'll learn principles that you can apply to dozens of other details in your projects. We use line weights, hatching, dimensions, and annotations to express material layers and construction intent. Then I'll show you how to organize your detail drawing within a complete architectural drawing set. You can follow along with me in Rayon by downloading the free construction detail template. There's a link below the video. Rayon is the fastest way to create 2D drawings. It's browser-based and made for collaboration. Feel free to subscribe to our channel for more architectural drawing tutorials. Now, let's get started. Architectural details are where design meets construction. Whether you're referencing manufacturer drawings or creating your own, these details show how materials come together. To begin with construction details, let's talk about scale. Here we are on the paper space, where you can see our whole project laid out. And at the end, we're going to add construction details. Since construction details are done at a different scale than floor plans and sections, we're going to want to make a new model canvas. So click on Layers, and let's add a new canvas. We're going to make a new model canvas, and we'll call it Construction Details. And now we can set the stroke scale to 1:1, and we could begin drawing here. This is the blank canvas where we would start drawing from scratch, but if you have some reference files like CAD drawings, you can always import them. Go here to the menu and you can import PDFs or DWGs, you can start tracing, or you can use existing lines drawn in other programs. But for now, let's start from scratch. Okay, let's start by drawing a foundation detail. So we're here somewhere on the blank canvas, and I have one grid line set up, and this is going to be the inside of my concrete. I'll show you how to make a grid line. You can push the shortcut G, or you can go here and click guideline. You can choose between a horizontal or a vertical or a free guideline. I'm going to just put one anywhere I want here, and that's sort of going to be our 0, 0 origin of our detail. So we'll start by drawing a rectangle for the concrete, and we are going to make the width of it 3 centimeters and the height can be whatever we want. And then we're going to make the bottom of the foundation. This will be another rectangle, and we'll start it from here, and I think we want it to be now we're more concerned with the height, so this will be the depth of the foundation, and it's going to be, I think it's 3.8. And what we can do is just sort of stretch this out so that it forms that T shape that a foundation looks like in section, and we're going to drag it out to just be in the center, and we can change all of this later. I'm just sort of blocking out the drawing. So first thing we'll do now is select both of these rectangles, and we can go into the Boolean shortcut BO, and you have these little options. So you can union, you can intersect, exclude, subtract. It's a great tool for when you're using areas like rectangles. We're going to simply just Boolean them together, and now it's one rectangle. And of course you can edit this now. So if we wanted to make the if we wanted to change anything, make it wider, you can even add a point on the shape, but let's just undo it because the shape is good enough for now. So that's our foundation, and we're going to make another rectangle now as the just really roughly, let's make the height 3 centimeters and just make, this is the ground beneath our foundation. And then what we're going to do is add sort of the earth that this retaining wall is retaining, right? So let's just put a rectangle there. Quickly select a different hatch here. Let's go, let's just fill it with a color so that you can see what's happening. We could use the draw order to make the foundation cover the ground. So let's just edit this path and add some points on the foundation. Cool, so now you can see how we're not stacking these layers on top of each other. They're actually aligned with each other, which is good for hatches, which I'll show you next. So first, let's make the ground. Let's change the fill to a hatch pattern, and we can pick the soil. And that's a little big, so we can transform it. Let's maybe put it to 0.2. That looks good. And this below, let's change this to dense grass and then transform it. Small. Okay, getting there. And let's do concrete. Let's make concrete this oblique compact. We like these diagonal lines. It's a pretty common way to show concrete. As a hatch. Transform it. Smaller. No, even smaller. Okay, we can start with that. And then because the concrete is actually the material being cut here, we want to show that with a slightly thicker line than the other objects in the details. So you can go here and edit the stroke. And let's just double this, and you can see that it gets thicker. So, okay, we're off to a good start here. Let's edit this again and just show the ground like that. See, things are starting to look a little bit like an architectural drawing. Let's go back though and look at this concrete hatch. Because we're going to be using concrete a lot in the drawing, let's save this as a style. So save style, and we'll say concrete. Now it's going to take these style properties and save them. So here we have concrete. Now, just to show you how this works, let's make another shape. Let's say this is in our next detail, and we can say we can apply concrete to it. And then if we click on either of these and click on concrete, we can edit this concrete style. And let's say we wanted to make the, scale down the oblique. So the magic of this is both things that we've applied the concrete style to changed. So this makes it super easy to control your graphics and make changes across all of your details all at once. And of course, we're going to make styles for the ground and for the soil and for anything else in your drawing. You can do that all very quickly and easily with styles in Rayon. Okay, now I'm going to show you a few different ways to draw the wall assemblies in your detail. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Rayon offers many different options, so I'm just going to show you a couple different ways to do this. It's nice to work with grid lines. Then you can sort of block out your drawing and measure it and make sure that everything is to scale. So nice way to use these grid lines is to use the offset function. So we know that from the face of this foundation, maybe we want to leave a little air gap, and then we want to offset that again, maybe 0.8 for a wall. Then let's go 0.8 again, set 8. So now if we want to go really quickly and easily, you can just draw lines. You can trace these grid lines. You can give the line any style you want, but I think it's a little bit easier to use rectangles. Rectangles are a little better because then you can assign the fill and the stroke like we did to the concrete. So you can just go down and snap. Now you know that the width of this rectangle is correct, and you can just drag it up to the top of your drawing, and you can start giving it a fill. And then you can start duplicating these. And if you decide that they need to be a different dimension, you can do that all very simply. Let's start over though, and I'll show you one other method, which is to use the wall tool. So the wall tool draws you a sort of like a rectangle, but it has the information of a wall. So let's start at that, zoom in, snap to that location, and now we can just start dragging up a wall across that grid line. And of course the wall can turn, but for this we just need a straight piece, and you can save the wall style, including the wall's thickness. So let's reduce that back down to the 0.8, and you can add a fill. Another useful tool is the trim function. I'm just going to very quickly show you how we draw a few Okay, so let's say we have these 3 floor assembly rectangles that I've drawn. This is just for show. We can tighten them up later, but you can just very simply start dragging them to align with the parts of your drawing that you need them to be aligned to. And then there's also the trim tool. So we can take a grid line, duplicate it to anywhere we want. We can click on the trim function, TR, and first you select what you want to trim with. So we're going to trim with the grid line. We say done, and now we can choose the paths to trim. And we can really quickly trim all of these assemblies to the line and then get rid of the line, and now we have the end of our detail. Now let's look at this roof assembly detail. I'll show you another common tool we should be using, which is the line tool. So for the small details like flashing details or membranes, things that aren't walls that don't need fills, the line tool is really useful. So let's zoom in here. You can see that I've already drawn so this metal flashing or this little upstand piece of membrane. This is all just lines. Very simple lines, and you can, of course, you can click onto them and edit them. But I'll show you now. We want to make a little like overlap piece. You can just start clicking with the line tool. And you can always, of course, you can make this more precise and measured later, but for now, you can see how quick it is to draw a custom little piece. And then you can style it however you want to make it stand out. Another cool thing you can do with the line tool is, let's go into this cavity wall and we can fill it with insulation. So let's just draw a simple line down the middle. And if you look in the stroke part of the line tool, you can click on this to add a dash. So let's scale up this dash so that we can see it. And great, there you go. So now you can see that there's all sorts of different dash types you can select from. And one of the so like dots, even custom ones, but one of them is called batting. and this is the insulation one. So you can scale this up and really nicely and with a lot of control add insulation to your drawing. Of course, once you've locked in your style, you can save it, call it insulation, and now you can use it all over your drawing and maintain consistency with styles. Okay, fast forward a bit and I've blocked out my foundation detail. Now I'm going to show you how to annotate this detail. First, let's start with some dimensions. You select the dimension tool, and we have some options here. We can either do a single dimension or a chained dimension. Let's start with a single. And this is just the most simple way you can choose two ends of a object and show the dimension. And I'm going to continue doing that. You can also click the loop to continue drawing. So I can dimension the depth here, and I can move up to the top, dimension top of the wall, and that's all without clicking, and then I can hit escape to exit the dimension tool. Now to style these. Styling is very important because dimensions are one of the most important parts of your drawing. And so it needs to be legible and consistent across. And it needs to convey the right type of information. So let's select one of these dimensions, and as with anything else, you can use styles to control all of this. So here on the side panel, you have the size, the font, you can edit the stroke, the color, the ends of the dimension string. First, let's simply make the text smaller. And what we're going to do is now save that style, and we'll call it dim detail. And now we can apply that style to the other dimensions. Dim detail. Now we have control over our dimensions. Another option is you can dimension in a chain. So let's zoom into the floor construction. This is useful if you want to dimension things that are all in a row. So click on the end, and we can simply just move up our drawing and dimension each piece of this assembly. So that was easy, but now we have the problem that this is completely illegible. So let's make a new dimension style. Because we're quite zoomed in here, this is probably a different scale than we're used to. So let's set up a new dimension style. We can go into here. And to get some consistency here, we can assign the dimension style we just created, so dim detail. But now we want to edit it. So let's actually detach this from dim detail. So it maintains what dim detail was, but we can now save it as a new one. So let's call it dim detail, and we want to use millimeters. So the way to do that is to go into the style, and you can click on units and precision. And right now it's using the canvas settings, which are centimeters. And we want millimeters. You can set the precision. We want to leave it at 0. And you can add a suffix, which shows the unit, but we don't want to use that because that would get too cluttered. So here we are in millimeters, and maybe let's make it a little smaller. And we can take down the size of the ends there, and could even reduce the gap between the number and the line. Maybe even more. And actually, let's make this very small. So, as you can see, that's a quick way to make things more legible and have control over them in the drawing. And now we have these two different styles existing at the same time, and we can control them separately. Now, this isn't what we're going to want to show for our detail, so I'm actually going to delete these, and then we can move on. And to further annotate the drawing, to tell people what all of these hatches mean, you can add a leader. We want, let's say soil. And let's do the same thing. Let's duplicate this. Here's a problem. See how it goes behind this? So what we want to do is actually take these 2 leaders and put them on a different layer. So the way we've set this up, the annotation layer is actually the top of the stacking order. So we'll put these in annotation and they come to this top. Of course, you can look on your layers tab. You can rearrange these. You could bring annotations to the bottom, which you probably don't want to do. And then within each of these layers is the stacking of all of the objects within the layer. So now that it's on top, we can call this, just for now, let's call this the floor. Topping, whatever. And then we can do the same thing with the annotations. And you can customize anything about this and even create your own style. Let's fast forward, and I've fully annotated my drawing and I've refined some of the hatches and the line work. And now it's ready to present. So let me show you how to now put this into the paper canvas and include it as part of our architectural drawing set. So here we are on the paper canvas where you can see the whole architectural presentation laid out. What we're going to do is add a new page for our design details to live on. So the first step is to go down into the toolbar and click page. Now you're going to have 2 options. You can either select a sized page or you can drag a custom size. But because we want to keep everything in the real world according to real paper sizes, we're going to choose to insert a page, and we're going to choose the size A3 to match the other pages on the sheet. Now we can actually just take this title block and copy it onto our page. Now, if you want a different title block, you can of course go to the Blocks tab and go to the Rayon libraries where there's over 10,000 blocks, and you can simply type in title block. And you can browse through title blocks and annotations to find anything you need. But for now, we're going to use the one that's already in the project. So now that we have a page and a title block set up, we need to add a view. Under the page button, there's the view button, and we're simply going to drag a box that we think might fit. And what's happening here, obviously we don't recognize these because it's not been part of the tutorial. That's because we're looking at the wrong canvas. So this view is a window into a different model canvas. So let's simply switch it to the construction details one that we're familiar with. And we have this crazy scale here. So we're going to set that at 1.1 to 5, which is a common detail scale. You'll see that if you stretch the window, the scale moves. This is bad. So what we always want to do is hold down Command while you're stretching the window, and it will actually be more of a crop function. So if we crop this, and now we've got exactly what we need. You can also double click inside and you can lock it. So now that we're inside, we can pan. This is if you don't want to crop. You could pan around, you can zoom, but if you notice when you zoom, you ruin your scale. So let's lock the scale, lock the pan, and then disable that. Now what we can do is duplicate this view. Make sure they both fit on our page. And then it's personal preference. You can either use the pan or you can hold down Command, open up the crop to the side, and simply drag it over and align your details. And now you have a nice detail page set up. Okay, now that our presentation's ready, we can export it. But before you export it, you might want to click on the Pages tab and ensure that everything is in the correct order. So the Pages tab will show you the export order. So we know that we want our detail page to be at the end. And here you can see it's not at the end. So all you have to do is drag it to the end. And then have a quick overview of the rest of your pages, make sure it's all good. And if everything looks good, you can click on the export button at the top. Here you have the option to either print it out onto real paper or export it to a PDF. You can also change the format and you can select a range of pages. So you could export all of the pages at once, or you could select a range, or even just type in a page number. I know that we have 16 pages, so if I want just the detail page, this will only export the detail page. So let's do that. Click export. Now you simply choose where to put it, give it a name, and save it. Now, since Rayon is a web-based tool, you have other options. You don't have to export PDFs and send them to clients the old-fashioned way. You can actually share with them a link to the live document, which updates as you work. So to do so, you go to Preview. And from the preview, we can check to see if everything is in order the way we want, and then simply click Publish. And then you can copy the link and send it to anyone on your team or any of your external collaborators, and they can open it in their browser window. Anyone with this link can view the presentation. They don't need to be a member of Rayon. All they need is a browser. And that's how you create construction details with Rayon. We went from a blank canvas to a clean, readable architectural detail, ready to share with consultants or drop into a permit set. You can download the free template below in the description, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more architectural drawing tutorials. Got any questions, or want to see a specific detail covered next time? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.